Hello and welcome. This is gonna be an update for my signature build, Fire Trap, that is also in the official Path of Exile forum. So this is 3.12 highest league. So probably after this I'm gonna remove some of the older versions because I have been doing this build, updating it for over 2 years now, and I'm the only one probably in the entire world who is doing this build and updating it. So yeah, it's my signature build. Yeah. So this one is let's talk about what is different. First of all, the most important one is anomalous flamethrower trap. So this is what made the build even better these days. You can see that the quality reduces skill effect duration a little, but it increases the cooldown a lot. So this way, this is actually a build that focuses mostly on flamethrowers. As you can see, it is in my 6 link chest, and I have a 5 linked fire trap here. Normally I used to play 6 link fire trap with 5 link flamethrower, but now it is the other way around because flamethrowers are way better these days, and this is probably one of my favorite skills in the game. So with increased area attached, this is what the AoE looks like right now. It is enough to clear an entire screen, and you can see that the cooldown is 3.48 seconds. Let's say 3.5. You can see you can just throw some, move to the next pack, throw maybe some fire trap, again maybe some fire trap, and combine with flamethrowers, and you can see that I have charges most of the time. So it is very easy to clear maps heavily based on flamethrower traps. So this is again not a very high budget build because this is an forum guide also, but maybe void batteries are a little expensive at league start, so you may want to use something else. We are gonna talk about all of that. So let's just start with items, and then talent tree, path of building. I'm gonna cover all of that. So right now I am playing with void batteries because they are cheap once the league is like a couple of weeks in. I bought this for 20 chaos right now, but sometimes they are like 2-3 exalt depending on the league we are in at league start. So if that's the case, if you cannot afford these, let's just talk now, but I will also show in the path of building probably. You can use normal wands, maybe scepters with decent spell damage, +1 fire gems, which is very powerful. Also crit chance, maybe a critical multiplier, something like that. You can just use those kind of dual wield, or maybe even use a shield if you are low on levels, or maybe you don't have enough HP. So that is something you can use at start and switch to void batteries. There is also a bow version that I prepared here, medium budget and high budget bows. So you can also play with bows and even use a Calm's Heart as a body armor. So that will make around 7k life, I believe. It is even better actually, but it is high budget, so this is not high budget. This is like medium budget, but we are also gonna talk about that. So you want mobility skills, dash, second wind, and arcane surge. I am using Divergent Arcane Surge because it adds extra 2 seconds to the Arcane Surge. Normally Arcane Surge is oh I'm an idiot. I'm trying to proc Arcane Surge without Arcane Surge. Never mind. Normally mine is right now 9 seconds almost. Without this it is probably like 7. You can actually check it here, I believe. Yep. Arcane Surge lasts 8.7 seconds, so it should be 6.7, maybe less, because I have skill effect duration, which also scales. So this is how you get Arcane Surge. Because I am reserving a lot of mana, you can see that I have only 14 mana left, so I had to lock my dash at level 7. Make sure you have a quality, a dash with quality, so you will have that cooldown recovery. Because you cannot level this to 20 and reset it yourself, you have to use CPs or maybe buy a quality one from someone else, because quality is obviously important. So you have to lock your dash depending on your mana, so don't forget that this is very important. Second wind and arcane sword, yeah. So on my other weapon I have rush fire, but it is Val, so we are gonna only press that for bosses or big enemies, or whenever we want. This is a big cooldown that gives more spell damage once it is active. Right now I am in hideout, so I cannot generate any souls, so I cannot use it. But we are not using normal rush fire, we are only using the Val for a DPS cooldown. Anomalous Spear Trap, it doesn't have to be anomalous, but it is better because it has skill effect duration and it is a lot, 40%. So Beard Trap, you only want to use this at big bosses. In maps if you really want, but it is not necessary once you have enough gear. You can use it on essence monsters, maybe map bosses as well, but it is not even necessary once you have enough gear and once you level your gems to 20 at least. Alright. This is mostly for big bosses. Guardians, tier 16s, Conquerors, Sirus, Shaper, Uber Elder, all kind of those kind of endgame bosses. So you don't want this at all in maps. Let's talk about this real quick. Enemies take 15% increased damage from traps or mine hits. And also it applies 80% less movement speed. So this is actually very useful on fights where the boss moves a lot, like the Guardian of the Phoenix. And maybe also Minotaur, something like that. These bosses also gets that slow, so it is very good to lock an enemy in place, so your flamethrowers can finish off the enemy. So very good utility trap, let's say. You only want to throw it once, and then all of your traps. We are going to talk about rotation later, so I will just continue now. And finally, increase duration. So you can see that Beard Traps debuff lasts 7.44 seconds right now, so almost 7.5 seconds, and which is enough for me to kill a boss. So you only want to cast it once and then the boss is dead. So let's talk about helmet. First of all, you want a helmet with Flamethrower Trap has 2 additional flames. This is very important. Normally without this, your flamethrowers will only have 4 flames. Let's see, yeah. But once you have this helmet enchant, now they have 6 flames. So this will increase your Flamethrower Trap DPS a lot. So this is why you want a helmet with this. Just try to pick a evasion base helmet, because this is a dodge evasion character obviously. We are using acrobatics, base acrobatics. So you an evasion chest is better, but if you struggle to find one, maybe it is early in the league, just buy something, then you can switch later, because it is very easy and cheap to craft this. Once you have a good helmet, item level by the way doesn't matter because we are not doing any influence on it. Once you get the helmet, you just want to use Essence of Horror on it. This can be a little expensive at league start, maybe like 10 chaos each. So maybe you should just use once and play with that, and once you have the money you can craft a better one. So where is it? Helmet. Socketed gems deal 30% more elemental damage. This is why my fire trap is 5 linked, because 30% more is like a good support gem actually. So you can see that socketed gems deal 30% more elemental damage. Fire trap is here. And I also tried to get some resistances, and then finally crafted life on it from the bench. Aim for resist life, and that's it. You don't want anything else. So fire trap, cluster traps, so you can throw 3 at a time. Charge traps, so while leveling, and that is also in the path of building, you don't want charge traps because that won't give enough DPS. You want trap and mine damage, or any other color that you have maybe while leveling. Fire penetration also works, but trap and mine damage probably is better for leveling. but once you hit the maps and get some decent gear, you want to switch to charge traps. Or if you have void batteries, yeah, again you want charge traps, because let's read. Supported skills have 30% chance to gain a power charge, also friends charge, when your trap is triggered by an enemy. So this is how we generate our charges. Because void batteries needs power charges, you can read the first line, 80% reduced spell damage, but if you read the bottom line, 25% increased spell damage per power charge. So without power charges, you are actually dealing less damage. So you want to generate those charges. This is how to play with void batteries. So let's talk about flamethrower traps. So in 3.12 right now, they added alternate quality gems, so Amulet is what made the build even better. If for some reason they don't add maybe this kind of quality to core game, then we are gonna simply use normal flamethrowers, obviously. But if we have an Amulet again in the future, this is what you should use. So it increases the cooldown recovery, but it reduces the skill effect duration a little. You will lose like 1 second on your flamethrower uptime. So they are 4 seconds, they stay 4 seconds on the ground right now. They are normally 5 seconds, they last, yeah. But they will have very better cooldown, so it is very good for mapping. And once you have enough damage, that cooldown and duration is also good for bosses, yeah. So I'm using LF Focus. I didn't even buy Awakened because I didn't want to make this build high budget. So you can even improve it more. LF Focus or Awakened LF Focus if you have the money. Trap and Mind Damage. Empower. So 4 is obviously a little expensive. So you can play with 3, and then once you have the money, just go for level 4. Fire Penetration. This is Awakened because this is one of the cheapest Awakened gems in the game. So very easy to buy this. So just use a normal Fire Penetration, and once you have the money, go for Awakened. So finally, Area of Effect. So again, Awakened for more damage, because normal area of effect doesn't give more damage. It only has area effect and increase area damage. But Awakened also has more damage, so it will give us some decent DPS. So just simply play with a normal one, and then once you have the money, buy this. Or if you are comfortable with your AoE, so this only gives like 5 or 6 radius, which is obviously good, but if you maybe are under leveled, maybe like level 80, something like that, maybe you don't have jewels yet, so your DPS isn't the best, maybe you are still leveling your gems, and then obviously area of effect doesn't give much damage, the normal one at least, so you can just skip this and use something else. I recommend using Control Destruction or Efficacy maybe. So yeah, that's what you can do, but once you have the money, you buy this, or maybe you level your character so you can play with a normal area effect, never mind. And then this is better for mapping because it gives a lot of AoE. But once you want to kill big bosses, like really big bosses, Shaper, Guardians, Sirus, those kind of stuff, you want to switch with Concentrate effect because this gives insane DPS. But this reduces the AoE, so this is not for mapping. So just switch like this once you enter the boss, and then switch back again. So that's about the flamethrower traps. So we are using a carcass check. So you don't need a corrupted one obviously to play this, but this is very cheap because no one plays trap mine skills. I bought this as 6 linked, and also this corruption, rocket trap and mine gems plus 2 for 4 exiles. Only 4 exiles, very cheap. It is a little joke. It's a big joke actually, because no one plays trap mines with carcass check, so it is very cheap. So obviously if you got it like this, corrupted, you will probably won't have the correct colors, but you can actually, if you don't know, change the colors. Let me show you, because some people don't know this if you are new to the game. Yep, now here we go. It will also want some wall orbs, so that's a little expensive obviously, but wall orbs aren't that expensive these days. So this is how you can change the colors on a corrupted item from the bench by also paying some wall orbs. So same wall orbs as the chromatics. So you can just use at least one red socket, or if you have some stocked up wall orbs, because you will have chromatics for sure, you can use 2 red sockets. So this is very easy to get, because carcass check is evasion and energy based, so you will have those green and yellow, not yellow, blue colors very easily. The only hard thing is the red, so you want to put red from the bench, because carcass check doesn't have armor on it, so red is the off color for this chest. If you don't know how that works, it is white. So let's continue. Slave drivers hand. So this is how I cast my traps for free. So as you can see, I am playing with a 14 mana cost, 14 mana, and you can see that I'm not spending anything. I'm spending actually life, but I have some regeneration, so I'm not even spending that. So let's read the item, the most important stats. Skills used by traps have 20% increased area effect, so try to get a good one depending on your AoE threshold, breakpoint. So what does that mean? So I also have AoE on my Amulet, so I have to calculate all of those. So right now I have 53 AoE on my Flamethrower. Let's change my slave drivers and see what happens. I need a new one. Slave drivers. So where's it? Yeah. So you can see that if I go below 13 AoE, so if I get 12 or lower, I will lose 1 radius. So you need to put your gear, obviously you will have your own method of building, and check what kind of slave drivers you should buy, because if you maybe don't have AoE on your Amulet, maybe you couldn't get something like this. You don't have an open suffix, so you couldn't put AoE. Maybe you will need less AoE or maybe more, depending on your breakpoint here. That's why you should get slave drivers with enough AoE that your build needs. So check that, +1 radius. And what other... Actually there isn't another stat that you should focus on. Obviously you can see that the dexterity, evasion and the reduced throw speed also changes, but those are not important. Reduced throw speed, trap throw speed is obviously matters, but it isn't that important, because it is again, let's keep reading this item. Increase and reductions to cast speed also apply to trap throw. This is what makes this gloves even better. So normally without this, so right now 0.68 cast time. Let's take this out. Yep, it is a little hard because I need that dexterity. Yeah. Let's check it on the path of building. So flamethrower throw time, let's check that. 0.34 without the gloves. You can see there's a very huge difference on the throw speed. So this is what makes these gloves even better. Let's check fire trap, 0.28, boom, 0.41. So there's a huge difference. Because we are playing with void batteries, these also give cast speed, so this item is good with every stat that it has. It doesn't have any bad stats. That cast speed, crit chance, mana, power charge, everything matters on this item. So very powerful overall for this build, and even synergizes with slave drivers. And finally, not finally, 10% chance to gain endurance, frenzy and power charge. So we are already generating charges with charge traps on our fire trap, but this adds another 10%. So it is very easy to generate your charges, and you even generate endurance charges sometimes. So it is nice. A little physical mitigation. And finally, the skills which throw traps have blood magic, so this is how we can cast our traps for free. So this glove is probably the best in slot for a trapper, and you should definitely get it. Without this, your build will feel very shitty. So very powerful overall. So the gems you want on your gloves: Zealotry, our DPS buff, Summon Skitterbot, Enlighten. If you don't have a level 4 yet, let's see what else we can do. Because right now, I believe I need to use level 4. So let's check. Yeah. So if you have level 3, which is very easy to get, let's see if this is enough. Yeah. But you cannot use your mobility skill, obviously, because this reserves all our mana. But you can get this until you have a level 4 for only 2 points. So where's this? Annoyant. Let's see. Yeah, it's the same as a level 4 Enlighten. So you will have that 14 mana, which I have. So you can do that, and once you get a level 4 Enlighten, just switch your Annoyant. And finally, Wave of Conviction. Divergent has spell effect duration, so it is nice. So one thing about Wave of Conviction, you don't have to use this at all, but it really helps on bosses like Guardians, Shaper. If you want to burst them in one attempt, if you can do that, this is very powerful because it gives a lot of DPS. So here is a trick with that. It is something that you should know at least. So let's see how much damage it gives first. Where is it? Yeah, here. So as you can see, it gives a lot of damage. So on Conquerors, Guardians, it is very important if you can use this, but it needs to deal a damage, so that, let's see, the highest damage it deals applies that minus elemental resistance. You have to get some fire damage to your spells, because otherwise those two damage types will be equal, and manually I believe it applies lightning exposure. So that's why I put this, that's how I remember it. So you want a jewel like this on somewhere in your tree, or if you are using a Stygian Wise Belt instead of a cooldown recovery maybe, you can socket this in your belt. It's a Stygian. So use something like this, just put some life and fire damage to spells. It can be dual wield, or it can be just fire damage to spells, it also works. So you will have some fire damage to spells, so that Wave of Conviction deals more fire compared to lightning, so that will apply that exposure as fire. So let's talk about the rings and amulet, and finally, because these two have some different stats on those. So amulet, if you need strength or dexterity, let's see if we need it. Yeah, I need some dexterity, so try to put your dexterity on your amulet. If you cannot put it on your amulet, you need to put it one of your rings. So make sure you have the correct stat. So dexterity is my stat that I chose. And then you want life, a decent life. There is actually a tier 1, mine is tier 2. But it is a little hard to find tier 1 life amulets with decent stats. So tier 2 is obviously easier. You want a decent crit multiplier, which is very important. I went for tier 1, but if you struggle to find a good amulet, just go with tier 2. That will be like 32% crit multiplier, something like that, which is enough. So a decent life, decent critical multiplier, and then finally some resistances. If you have good resist on your other items, helmet, belt, maybe boots, also rings obviously, you can maybe skip one resist on your amulet, so it will be easier to get an amulet like this. But overall these kind of amulets are not that hard to find. I bought this for like 30 chaos or maybe 40, I don't know. Because I also searched open prefix. If you don't search that, there are a lot of results, very easy to get, but I wanted that extra area effect and area damage. But it's not the end of the world if you cannot find something like this. Just go for that life with multi and resistances and you are good to go. And don't forget to anoint it with Golem's blood. That's what I chose, because you will have way more DPS, more than enough DPS once you have the gear. So you want that health. So 5.5k is enough, obviously. But without that, we will have 5.3 maybe. So anything more than 5k is enough for a boss killer build. This is a trapper, obviously. It is mostly for boss killing. Trappers aren't the best mappers in the game, unfortunately. So anything below, above 5k is enough. But Golem's lot. You can also go, where is it? Let me just say that maybe you want that extra DPS for some reason. Heart of Flame is probably your best option for DPS. If you want to anoint that, just go for it. It gives fire damage and fire penetration. Fire penetration is probably the best thing you can get for boss DPS increase. But I want life because I don't want to die. That's why. Rings, nothing special actually. Just life, resist. I went for a diamond ring for some DPS and also some strength. I don't think I need this, but it is just for some extra health. I don't actually need that strength because I have more than enough actually. So just life, resist. Mana actually helps a little because, as you can see, I am playing with a very low mana that I already talked about it. But if you don't have mana on your rings, that mana will be lower. As you can see, it's now 13. It is 14 with the ring, so you will use a little lower dash probably. But that's not really important. Only one mana difference. So, but yeah, mana helps a little, but not necessary at all. So life resist. You can actually put fire damage, or even craft your own rings, because it is maybe a little harder to find it on your on the market. So you can actually craft your own rings with these essences: anger, bottom text, other jewelry, 27 to 30 increased fire damage. There is actually one more upgrade, 31 to 34. Very good. You can actually craft your own rings with these. If you bother buying essences, you will have even more DPS compared to mine, because that will make like more than 60% damage. Very good. And other ring, again same stuff, resist life. I again went for mana, but that isn't really necessary, as I said earlier. And finally, you want to craft Aspect of Spider on one of your jewelry, and that's it. Finally, belt and boots. So why I left this for the last? Because these have cooldown recovery on those, so I can even reduce flamethrower cooldowns more. So without these, let's see how much difference it makes. So 3.5 second cooldown, let's say, without the belt, and without the boot, it's 4 seconds almost. So these two reduce the cooldown by half a second. There is actually one better tier for cooldown on your belt. This is only tier 2, so you can even go for that, but it is a little harder to find a good belt like that. So what stats do you want on your belt? Life. I also went for spell damage during flask effect. It is also on shaper based belt, same as cooldown, so it is easy to find belts like these. I didn't even put any resist. If you put resist, it will be a little more expensive. This is very not that expensive like this. Only 1 or maybe 2 exiles. It should be even cheaper right now because I bought this at league start after a week. Yeah, that's why I paid like 2 exiles. It should be even cheaper right now. You can even just go for one resist, but without any resist on my belt I managed to keep all my resistances because rings and amulet helps a lot. But if you want resist, just put a resist on this belt, or maybe skip cooldown. It won't make that much difference. Where is it? So 3.7. It's not the end of the world. You won't even notice it. So you can even skip cooldown if you want to resist and switch your belt later if you want. Or you can skip that spell damage. But obviously damage is better. Is important. And finally I crafted global damage from the bench to even increase my DPS more. So finally boots. First of all, again, like the belt, you want cooldown, but you can absolutely skip it because it only gives like 0.2 seconds or something like that. So if you struggle getting a good boot, because Keystone crit builds buy these kind of stuff, so they are sometimes hard to find. I found this maybe by luck, I don't know. I didn't actually pay that much for this. Maybe like 30 chaos, 40 chaos, but sometimes they are harder to find because once you put resist, it becomes harder. So you can absolutely skip cooldown, then camp for a good boots and buy a new one later. But the stats that you want, cooldown if you can, then movement speed at least 25. 30 is obviously better, or even 35 if you can. Decent life and resist if you need. So finally, once you say that okay, this is my boots, I won't change it again because you need to go to Labyrinth. Most people don't even like that, but you have to do that if you want to min-max your character. Finally, if you think that yes, this is my final boots, I won't change it, then go for Labyrinth, Overlap obviously, and get that crit chance enchant. You can also get Penetration. That is way harder because that's probably the rarest enchant in the game for the boots. But if you can get Penetration, that is also very good, but if you get this, just stop, you are fine. Yes, crit chance enchant. So the thing about this, it says crit chance if you haven't crit. So the traps are actually not us, so you won't lose this buff at all because we aren't critting, the traps are critting. So we will get that 120% crit all the time. So this is a very powerful enchant. Same thing goes for the Penetration also, and that says something like 10% elemental damage penetration if you haven't killed recently, something like that. So we are not killing again, the traps are killing, so that will also work 100 at time. So yeah, crit or penetration, whatever you can get, and that's your enchant. And for boots, gems, Divergent Berserk. So I'm gonna explain Berserk at Talent 3, but the only thing you want to know for now is it should be Divergent quality or it won't do anything. So buff grants more spell damage, that's why we are using a Divergent Berserk. So I'm gonna explain this detailed in Talent 3 section. And you want Blink Enhance, if you have level 4 Enhance, just go for it. The better quality, the more spell damage you will get. So this is a very big DPS cooldown, which is probably gonna get nerfed later because it is very broken right now. But even after the nerf, you will probably use it. They have to change the function of the gem so that we won't be able to use it. But if they are gonna nerf it, we're gonna use it again for sure. And finally, cast when damage taken to Immortal Call for some damage mitigation. We also have some endurance charges thanks to our blows. They are not there all the time, but sometimes we have them, and once cast when damage taken and Immortal Call pops, that will also consume those endurance charges for an even better damage reduction. 50% less physical damage taken per endurance charge removed. So yep, that has a little synergy with slave drivers. So let's talk about flasks. So first of all, life flask. I'm using an eternal life flask because I don't want to use instant recovery life flasks on a trapper. because I believe those are better on builds that attacks and leeches at the same time, because traps are heavily relied on flask to heal and also some regeneration. I have some passive regeneration and also more from Saboteur. Yeah, here. Regenerate 1% life per second for each trap triggered recently up to 10%. So once, if you don't, let's say you are avoiding something, maybe you get hit, and if you use that instant flask and you have no traps going on right now at that moment, that instant flask only heals like 900 or maybe 1000, something like that, and that won't be enough to heal you because you have more than 1000 life. Even if you drink it 3 times, that means that you don't have any flask left, and if you get hit by something else, you are basically fucked. So yeah, that's why I am using not instant flasks, and I highly recommend you to not use that. So that's why Eternal Life Flask is your best choice. Actually mine isn't the best, but this is also good. 100% increased recovery when on low life. Low life means that if your life is below 35%. So it heals 100% increased recovery. But you can also use increased recovery rate. It's like 50%, and it makes the flask to heal you in 2 seconds. Normally it is in 4 seconds on an Eternal Life. It will be like 2 seconds, so that is also very good. So one of that, this one or that one, just pick one, and then finally put Bleed on it. So if you don't know how to craft flasks easier, Beastcraft is actually very good for that. So let me just also show that. So here, add a mod to have flask. So let's say you are using alterations on any of these flasks, it doesn't matter. Let's say that you get that 100% recovery rate and the suffix is empty. So don't use augment and pray for RNG. Just come here if something like that happens. Same goes for these. Let's say you got duration and no suffix, so your flask only has duration. So just come here, put your flask, and then select the appropriate one. Let me just explain all of these because they don't say which one is which if you don't know, if you are new to the game maybe. So heat is for freeze, as you can see here, flask of heat. So if you want freeze, you put this. This is for ignite, we don't need this. Staunching is for bleed, so goes here on your life flask. Grounding is for shock, which again we don't need. Curing is for poison, and final warding for curse. We don't need ignite and shock immunity. Actually they are obviously good because we are playing a saboteur which already immune to ignite and shock thanks to this ascendance. So that's for the life flask. Freeze on my diamond flask, you can put curse, it doesn't matter, just put the freeze or curse. And the other one is on your quicksilver. This is obviously not optimal because you can use a quicksilver with movement speed on it, because these kind of builds aren't that fast. You can see we are also using dash. So with quicksilver, obviously I am moving faster, but if you want to even move more fast and even faster, I think I have it on my other character. Yeah, you should use quicksilver with movement speed obviously, but then you cannot use 2 separate unique flasks. So you want to drop something and then use a random flask, maybe a quartz for more dodge. Jade is also good. You can also use a basalt flask because this is an evasion build. We don't have much, or maybe any at all, I don't know. Only 1% physical damage reduction, yeah, because evasion builds don't have that. So basalt flask is probably better. You can just use that instead. Just use Wise Oak or Cinder Swallow, whatever you want, and then put curse or freeze on this and put movement speed here, so you will move faster. I didn't go for that. This movement speed is enough for me, but if you want to be faster, you can do that. So Wyzok, let's talk about this because most people don't even know how this works. So it says 10% reduced damage taken of each element for which your uncapped element resist is lowest, and 15% penetration, again same stuff, but highest. So it has value between 10% and 15, so obviously 15% is the best, so try to get a good one, but you need to adjust your resistances if you want to use a Wyzok. So if you want to get the correct penetration, which is fire obviously because this is a fire build, both Flamethrower and fire trap deals fire damage. So you want to get your fire resist the highest to get that penetration. But the thing is, another unique stuff about this flask, if all of your resistances are the same, then both of these bonuses, the lowest bonus, the highest bonus, everything will work at the same time. So right now all my resistances are equal, not this one. You want to check between the parentheses. So 77, 77, 77, 77. Yeah, you can see that my resistances are the same. So this is why if I drink this flask, I will get penetration to every element, not only fire. I will also penetrate cold and light, which we are not dealing obviously, but that is how it works. But also I'm gonna take 10% reduced damage of each element in the game, again fire, cold, lightning. So this is all both good for DPS and a little elemental defensiveness. Yeah. If you cannot balance your resistances, then just go for a higher fire resist. So it should be, for my resistances, in my case, it should be at least 78, 79, 80, 90, 100, I don't know, anything above these two. So I will always penetrate fire, because that's what matters. Because this is a fire build, you want that fire penetration. So you should have your fire resist the highest in the parentheses. Or you can balance your resistances once you finish your gear. Because after this, after you make this balance, it is very hard to change your items. So you want to say that, okay, this is my gear, I won't get any more upgrades, so I will buy things appropriately. I will divine my rings maybe to change those resistances, and then finally you will have these resistances, balance things out to get that reduced elemental damage taken. So you will be tankier against elemental damage. So that is something to think. You can min-max your flask, your character, if you want. Sinner Solo. So first of all, that recover 3%, 1% mana, life, energy shield, those don't work on traps. I'm using this for that increased crit chance. Obviously Onslaught, this is a silver flask, so I am moving faster. Because Onslaught gives you attack, cast, and move speed. And one last thing, enemies ignited by you during flask effect take 10% increased damage. This actually works for some reason, because it says by you, but actually I am not igniting, but this works. So again, I think that grinding gear games does all the time. Some stuff are actually probably bugged, so this shouldn't actually work, but it works. Because why did I say that? So this is actually the same stuff. Crit chance, if you haven't crit recently, yes, I'm not critting because my traps are critting, so I have this all the time. But this again says by you, but I'm not igniting, my traps are igniting, but this works, which shouldn't work because this works. If this shouldn't work, then this shouldn't work. So they are actually the same stuff, but one is different, one is different. Yeah. It is probably a bug or maybe something that they missed while programming, but it works. So I want that 10% increased damage. Let's see how much damage it gives. Concentrate effects. As you can see, it gives 9.5% damage. So not that bad. Definitely a good damage flask. You can use I don't have any. Let's put it here. You can use Adris Promise if you cannot afford Cinder Swallow. You only want that elemental damage as extra because we are not dealing any physical. So you can use this instead at league start because Cinder Swallow is a little expensive at league start. So Adris Promise. Again, not that bad, some damage. So it is a very good flash. It also has chaos resistances, which your chaos resistance probably won't be capped. So this helps a lot. Alright, let's talk about talent tree. First, before talent tree, I'm gonna mention about Saboteur and what to get first. At first, and second, third, labyrinth. Alright, so first of all, I go for perfect prime all the time. 20% chance for threat to trigger an additional time probably is the best thing this gives. The other stuff are just little bonuses. Because we want to rush for chain reaction as soon as possible. So this is obviously most of the time doesn't really matter for flamethrowers, but this is very good for fire traps. What it does is when your traps trigger, your nearby traps also trigger. So the thing is, every trap has an explosion trigger radius. If you are playing a Saboteur, you don't invest in that. Maybe we have some from the tree. I'm not sure if these have any. Yeah, 30% increased trap trigger area effect. So yes, we have some trigger area effect, but we don't have all of the nodes. So let's say that Zana is the boss. We throw some traps. So we were lucky, all these traps landed near her, but sometimes it's a little off. So let's see that this trap here won't probably get detonated by Zana, the boss, because we don't have enough trigger. So that happens all the time, let's say, yeah. But it doesn't really matter for Flamethrower because we are dropping it at the top of the boss. So that's why this node is very important while leveling and also for mapping. So just rush for this. And then probably this is your best choice. You can actually get this early on if you want, but it doesn't really matter that much at low levels, because this is how you get healed a lot. Regenerate 1% life per second for each trap triggered recently, up to 10%. So if you throw 10 traps in under 4 seconds, that's what recently means. You can get 10% regeneration going on, which will heal you very fast. And you can also use Life Plus at the same time, so that will heal you a lot. And we are also immune to Ignite Shock, which is very good. Also some reduced mana cost, but that doesn't really matter once you get Slave Drivers, because this will use life, which we can regenerate easily. And finally, Explosives Expert. So you want to use skitter bots to use this, otherwise this will be mostly useless. So make sure you are using skitter bots. Obviously 30% area effect works, and also 8% reduced area damage from hits. But the thing is, 30% multiplier against burning enemies. We are burning alright because this is a fire build, but the shock and shield, the other two, crit strike chance against shocked enemies, and also penetrate 10% elemental resist against shield enemies. So skitter bots, there are 2 bots, 1 shields, 1 shocks, so that's how we get full benefit of this ascendancy node. So yeah, here is a tip that you should probably do that if you are just leveled this build, if you are gonna still push levels. So if you are not done with the leveling, let's say, I highly suggest you to dump this, don't get this, and get Born in the Shadows instead, because this gives so much survivability. After I finish leveling, I just like, alright, I don't need this anymore. I can handle 1 or 2 deaths if it happens, because this blinds nearby enemies, so that reduces the chance to hit of the enemies, so you won't get hit that much. So this is actually very good for survivability. So I highly suggest you to take this while leveling, and once you are high level, depending on what you call a high level, maybe 92, 93, 95, never mind. So you get the idea. Once you are finished with leveling, then switch to this for most DPS. Yeah. So this is for the labyrinth and ascendancies. There are leveling trees in Path of Building. It is here. So make sure you follow these if you are not very good at leveling, because some parts are changes after a while, so make sure you do those. So an important one is, so while leveling you want to of course go with trap and mind damage, or maybe you can also pick these, it doesn't really matter. You can go like this or like this, they are the same DPS actually, because they are both 10%. But after some while I want some points back, so I will go like this. But it doesn't really matter while leveling, but you will see that after a while I change it. So make sure you do that, don't forget, because it is easier to go like this at low level, like this, because we want this trap wheel and acrobatics as soon as possible. But later on, once we are higher level, let's see, 7th level maybe, once you just entered maps, it seems, yeah, you want to change your tree like this to save you those points. So don't forget that, pay attention to that. So yeah, obviously I won't mention everything on the tree, but this is a dodge character, so acrobatics and phase acrobatics are very important. This is the trap wheel, so you want to get this as soon as possible, because here traps cannot be damaged for 5 seconds after being thrown, so you need this ASAP. This doesn't really matter that much while leveling, but it is better to get this ASAP. So just stick with the leveling tree until you get void batteries, because they scale with power charge. Don't get power charges, you don't need these while leveling. So just some trap wheels, crit. So this is good for cooldown. So for flamethrowers I highly suggest you to take this as soon as possible. This also gives +1 cooldown use, so my flamethrowers has 4 stacks available, normally it is 3 without this. So 3 flamethrowers, and once you get this, you will get the 4. So very important. I'm gonna talk about this at last. So more life, crit, life, some jewels. So again, same stuff, I don't want to talk too much about this. So this is also very important. Skill effect duration, this is how you get your flamethrowers to last longer. So very important. If you don't have good jewels, or maybe you are not high level, just leave all the jewel slots for last. Alright, just take all the other stuff and then finally the jewels. That's a recommendation. So let's talk about jewels and what stats we want. So the most important stats are life, crit multiplier, any form of, and the ones that works, I'm gonna list those on the screen. Spell crit multiplier, fire skills, global crit multiplier, and elemental crit multiplier. So there are lots of options. Just combine 2 of those and put life. So this is not that cheap. They are usually around 1 or 2 exalt, depending on the meta builds right now, depending on the league. So fire skills aren't that popular. So something like this you can usually get for 1 exalt, maybe 2 at most. But if something happens, maybe the meta changes, these will be like 3 exalt maybe. But most of the time they are 1 to 2 exalt. So these are the things that you should buy once you are high level, or once you have the money. Again, crit multi, life. The 4th stat isn't important. I found intellect, I didn't even typed intellect, so that's how I got mine. So this one had minion stuff, that doesn't really matter. So I already talked about this, so again, maybe you skipped it, I don't know. Make sure you put Abyss Jewel somewhere in your tree, or if you have a Stygian Vice, put it inside, because you want that flat fire damage to spells. Otherwise your Wave of Conviction won't work. If you are playing with normal wands, scepters, not void batteries, you can put fire damage with spells and that will do the trick. So to use Wave of Conviction, you need something like this. Very important. Or just don't use Wave of Conviction at all if you don't want. But this is very good for big bosses to burst them in one combo. One more, same stuff, you get the idea. And a Watcher's Eye, let's see where, yeah. So I got this one, this is very cheap, you can buy a better one if you want to invest. As I said earlier, this is a medium budget build, so I don't want to buy 10 exile Watcher's Eye or something like that. This is only like 40 chaos, maybe 1 exile, I'm not sure. Very cheap, under an exile. The thing that you want is crit strike, penetrate, 10% resist while affected by Zealotry, that's it. If you have an insane Watcher's Eye, maybe you found it yourself, or maybe you have the money, you can buy Anger Watcher's Eyes and use Anger instead of Zealotry. But Anger, once you have similar gear, once you level your gems, once you get level 4 Empower, that also matters a lot, your Flamethrower will have enough base damage, so Anger won't give that much DPS to your Flamethrowers. It actually gives decent DPS to Fire Trap, but Flamethrower is what destroys the bosses. So Zealotry is actually in the end better, but if you have a very insane Anger Jewel, double Anger Jewel, I'm talking about that, not a single mod, a double Anger, you can also use Anger with that Watcher's Eye if you have, yeah. So yeah, finally this is the thing that I saved for last. So this has something to do with the Divergent Berserk, as I explained earlier. I actually didn't explain, I said that I will explain it later, yeah. For Berserk, let's see what it is first. So it is a cooldown that you can push anytime you want. So if we are at a boss, we use everything and then boom, we press Berserk. You can see that our character is bigger now, and then you can see that we started to lose rage. So we have now a cooldown on us still. The boss is probably dead, but yeah, the cooldown is longer than the boss's lifetime. So it gives us more spell damage because this is a Divergent Berserk. Normal Berserk doesn't do anything to us, so you want a Divergent Berserk. But you want rage. Normally you don't have rage on a spell build, obviously. You can see that I have my rage ready at 50 again. So how we do that? Little Pride Jewel, Unique Jewel with Commander Ekoya. This is what you should search. Little Pride and Ekoya, that's it. The number isn't important, it only changes the stats that it gives. You can see that this melding passive has 5% strength. Normally it doesn't have that. This jewel gives it, but it can be different on your jewel. It doesn't really matter because we don't take any of these nodes here, so we don't get benefit of those at all. So this one has regenerate 1% life, crit multi for melee, totem damage, fortify effect. So most of this stuff doesn't even work for this build, so we don't care about the number. Just get a Little Pride with Ekoya. This can be a little hard to get at league start because this drops from Legion 4-way, 3-way, anything like that. You want to use these in your map and do that. So that's how those jewels drop. So this is hard to get in at league start. I believe it drops from Karui. This is, yeah. So just try to get this once you have the money and once they started put this on the market. But also you also need this. So yeah, this should take some time to get. But you need both of these to make it work. So eventually this jewel will convert this Pain Attunement Keystone to Chainbreaker. You can also put this somewhere else, but this is the most efficient one. But I'm not sure if we have any. Yeah, actually we have, yeah. You can actually put this here. I actually probably forgot this. This should be probably better, yeah. because we already have this and this. Let's see, burning damage. We don't really deal that much burning damage, but this is actually a better spot. And just take this instead. Yeah, mind over matter. So it will get converted to Chainbreaker again. So you should get this and not this. But if your jewel doesn't give good stuff to these two, then it doesn't really matter. So you can just play like this or like this. So this will eventually regenerate 3 rage per second and also applies any mana regeneration rate to rage regen. But you lose rage if you hit an enemy. Since we are using traps, we are not hitting enemies. You don't lose your rage at all. So you will have that 50 rage ready all the time. So if you are at a boss, just pop it, kill the boss, and that's it. So for fights like maybe Shaper, Uber Elder, especially Sirus, fights that have multi phases, you will have that rage ready. You can see that in a couple of seconds I have 50 rage again. So this is very broken and overpowered right now. This gem is probably gonna get nerfed, but still we are gonna use it. And that concludes the duel, Little Pride, and also Talent Tree, everything. So let's talk about Pantheons real fast. They aren't really that much important, but you can just upgrade those. I didn't really bother actually. So we are not stun immune on something like a Saboteur, so I am using Soul of the Branking to not get chain stunned. So you cannot be stunned if you have been stunned or blocked the stunning hit in the past 2 seconds. So this is good, obviously. You can take those upgrades if you want, they don't really matter that much. If you don't care about getting stunned, you can also use something else. These are all good actually, but I just didn't want to get stunned, so that's why I went this one. So the small ones, I'm right now using Soul of Aberrath, unaffected by Burning Ground. So I believe being Ignite immune is something different, so you still get hit by Burn Ground. Maybe I just didn't pay enough attention, I don't know, but I think I am getting hit by Burning Ground. That should be it. If I am wrong, I don't use this, but I think you get hit by Burning Ground even though you are immune to Ignite from this, because they are different. So that's why I'm using this. The upgrade doesn't really matter that much, but it actually has 10% move speed while on Burn Ground. So maybe it's something good. Just go for it if you want. You can also use something else. So this is actually very bad these days. This used to be a best in slot, but I don't recommend this at all because it only removes your poisons at 5 stacks, which is not very good. Yeah. For bosses like Sirus, this is actually very good. I always switch to this before entering a big boss like Sirus or maybe Uber Elder. So this is actually very good. So you can switch to that before a big boss fight. This isn't really important. Yeah, just use whatever you want. I highly suggest this if it works, as I said, but that should be the case. So let's talk about rotation and how I DPS bosses. So Fire Trap and Flamethrower Traps both deal more damage and also added damage. Fire Trap is added and Flamethrower deals more damage against burning enemies. So just read the bottom text. 25% more damage against burning, added fire damage against burning. So Fire Trap leaves a burning ground on the ground, so that counts as burning. Also if it ignites targets, that also counts, I believe. Yeah. So before fighting a boss, let's say you are at a Conqueror, it is still spawning, so you can maybe ready your traps. Yeah, just drop some fire traps, use your flamethrowers also, and also use a beer trap, only one. And if you can, get your arcane surge before or just before the boss starts. So just drop some of these, some flamethrowers, a beer trap, pop your flask, arcane surge, dash, and also press Berserk. And if you have it, also wall rise fire. Once the traps went off, the boss is active. You can also use a wave of formation only once. So again, let's go to the boss. Prepare everything, flasks, berserk. Once the boss is active, only one wave of formation. And that's it. And also try to get that arcane sword if you can. Since it is a 9 seconds buff, you can get this before throwing your traps, maybe, I'm not sure. So just figure it out. It doesn't really that matters in the end, because the boss will die in seconds. So you can skip maybe one buff, it doesn't really matter. So just make sure you can use everything you can, so you will kill the boss quickly. So let's talk about head of building, and I think that's gonna be it. Also some rotation. So I'm gonna talk about path of building to show you how to calculate your DPS, because I get questions about that a lot. And also I'm gonna show you. Let's first do that. If you want to invest even more into the build, this is, as I said earlier, a medium budget build, because this is a very good league starter, and also medium budget means you want to spend maybe 10x or maybe 15x at most. That's what medium budget. If you want to spend 20-30 exalt more, yeah, you should play with bow. So there is bow options here. This blue pearl amulet isn't anything, skip that. I just want to make a title here. So these are the, not this. These are the high budget options. So let's just show the difference, then I will explain how to calculate your DPS. So right now my Flamethrower Traps has a burst DPS damage of 800k each. So each flame hits like this. But if you want to play with a bow, let's put a medium budget bow first with a quiver. And then we need to put our flamethrower in our weapon. And also use, you can still play with the carcass check, but you can go for this if you want. Boom. So we have 7k life and a little more DPS compared to before. So this is a good option if you want to get that high HP, because trap builds aren't very tanky. That extra 1.5k life, I believe, is very good. But a bow like this should cost you around 5x, I believe, 5-6x maybe. So you can do this. This is actually maybe easier to do at league start, because void batteries sometimes are very expensive at league start. So maybe you can get something like this, but you want that +2 level of socket support champs, which is a little hard to get again at a league start, because you need to veil weapons, and eventually you will get it from, you know, unveiling weapons. So maybe you can buy it from someone else, I don't know. So maybe playing with void batteries are better at league start overall, because it is hard to find the craft. You also need to 16 your bow, and that's also another thing to mention. But yeah, actually never mind that. You don't need to 16 your bow, because you're gonna use porcupine cards. Yeah. Let's see if I have any. Or no. So it will give 16 bow. I will probably put a picture. So you can use that bow, easy 16, but again, you want that veil mode. So if you don't have that, just go for void batteries. So eventually, if you want to invest even more, so I'm talking about 10 exalt for that bow maybe. This is your high budget bow, and you can see that DPS is insane. You can see the difference. So this is actually the ultimate version, also a high budget quiver. So let's talk about first the quiver. A spike point, obviously, for crit. Again, crit chance if you can get it. Also crit multiplier, life. So movement speed is the high budget version. These are very hard to find. I had one of these at Delirium League, I believe. But yeah, right now I'm not playing with that quiver. This should be easier to find. But the movement speed one is definitely make things way better. You can also put maybe resist, and that's it. So high budget bow. This has more plus level gems, so this is how you deal a lot more damage. But you need to use fossil to get this, or maybe buy this bow from someone else. So sniper bow is very good base because it gives 25% multiplier, global crit multiplier, very good. There are actually similar bases, I believe. You should just check Path of Exile Gamepedia. I think there is one more base with crit multiplier. So pick one of those bows, and if you want to craft it yourself, you need to use that fossil with. I'm gonna put a picture on the screen. I think it is faceted fossil, but yeah, just check the picture on the screen. So you want to use that fossil and craft something like this eventually, or maybe just buy it from someone else. So this should probably cost you more than 10 exalt, because you are gonna use some fossils, and also eventually you need to link your bow, or maybe you can find the 16 bow. Some people just found it on the, while killing monsters stuff, and then that won't be that expensive most of the time. You can also do that. But yeah, crafting this needs more investment, but you will have way more DPS compared to what I have. Is it necessary? Obviously not, because as you already saw in the clips that my DPS is very high. But this is, if you want to min-max this build, just go for it. But this is how we play, how I play. Body armor and carcass check. Yeah. So let's finally show how to calculate your DPS. So make sure you tick your flasks, obviously, and then you go to configuration. You get power charges, yeah, friend charges, 50 rage to get that berserk buff. Oh, I think you don't need this at all, yeah. It doesn't really matter, just type it in. Flask active just to make sure. So nothing else there. So is the enemy alright? Most people skip this part. As you can see, I lost a lot of DPS. So yes, we are using a Sinner Swallow, but we are losing more DPS if we untick this, because both Flamethrower and Fire Trap has a little stuff in it. So read the bottom text. Added fire damage against burning enemies. Again, more damage against burning enemies. So these two skills both deals more damage and added damage to burning enemies, ignite enemies. So make sure you tick this. This is very important. And what else? Shield, because we are using Seeker boat. One of that is chilling, the other one is shocking. Right now actually it calculates the shock, so this really isn't important. As you can see, it already calculates it, but it wasn't calculating it a couple of weeks ago, so that's why I added. It's a 17% shock, that's why. So yeah, same stuff. Shock, shield from Skitterbot, Shepherd Guardian or Sirus, it doesn't really matter. It only matters for physical builds. So these both and game bosses have same resistances, unless you are a physical build. As you can see, it has Sirus has more armor. Since this is an elemental build, it doesn't really matter. And finally, these two. If you are using Wave of Conviction, you should also check this fire. And finally, Spider, 3 stacks. If you don't have any spider stacks, you will also lose some DPS. Every stack has 5% increased damage, so it will cap at 3 stacks. So one last thing, yeah, I have it here. So if you really want to min-max, maybe you have this on other character, something else. I didn't use this because this is a medium budget. So you can even use this instead of probably Cinder Swallow. Or yeah, probably Cinder Swallow, yeah. Where is it? Battle Fate. And make sure you tick this. Boom. You can see we get 130k more DPS compared to a Cinder Swallow. So yeah, Battle Fate obviously overpowered. really amazed that they still haven't nerfed it. Yeah, I believe that's it. If I forgot anything, please just ask me in game, or way better, just leave a comment in the official forum post, because that's where the build is for over 2 years. This is just an update. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe to support me. And I also publish a lot of other stuff, lots of other builds. Most of them are endgame builds, so if you have the currency for it, I'm not talking about 100x builds. Most of them are like 20x, 30x maybe. So high end, a little high budget builds. So I do those kind of stuff a lot. So check that out if you want, and I will see you next time.